268th meeting of the MPTC. If my name is Rob Mashel, Chair of the Council. If I could ask everyone to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could remain standing for a moment of silence for all law enforcement and those who lost their lives serving this country. Thank you. We begin by introductions. Start to my left here. Good
morning, everyone. My name is Rob Ackerman. I am new to employee relations as of last week, so you'll have to forgive me if I have no idea what's going on here, but we'll get it really quickly. So I'm sitting in for Carlos Lorenzo, who's the deputy superintendent for employee relations.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mike Thompson, the deputy commissioner for the Office of Public Safety here at DCJS.
Johanna Sullivan, director of the Office of Public Safety at DCJS.
Joshua Vineout, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Sarah Dean, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Jonathan Becker, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Molly Bates, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
BJ Weeks, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
I'm Mike Puckett, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Jessica Brady, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Matt Strauss, DCJS, Deputy Counsel.
Natasha Hartman Locklear, DCJS Legal. Colleen Batten, DCJS, Deputy Commissioner and Council.
Rosanna Rosado, DCJS. Hope Rivera, Assistant Commissioner, Cox.
I'm Maureen Curtis, subject of the Legal and Justice Program.
Bruce McBride, Commissioner of Police. Retired.
Name's Matt Taracco, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Eileen Iverson Brender, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
Kelly Conlon, DCJS, Office of Public Safety.
Kevin Boyer with Office of Public Safety. Kevin Roy, Office of Public Safety.
Mike Whiteley, OPEB, Director of Law Enforcement Public Safety Bureau.
Rick Haskell, New York State Sheriff's Association.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge Council Member Deborah Long, who's participating remotely. Can you hear us, Doctor?
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Long, can you just confirm you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Move on to the others.
Okay. And also, if there's anyone else viewing virtually, if they could state their name and their agency.
PD?
Sergeant Patrick Wilson's NYPD. Good morning.
Sergeant Gregory McNally, New York City Police Department.
Sergeant McNally, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh. Dr. Long, can you try confirming that you can we can hear you and you can hear us? We got you. No.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Check the speaker. Something. Heard something.
I think someone's still Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dr. Long. I think they're having an issue hearing us.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Type in the motions, they can say that these will be taken down, and then we'll read it out. And then we can move forward. We did it so.
So, all right, I'll take it. I have, so. Yes.
You have a statement.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna proceed, and action items that we have to vote on, we will just, we'll have them, Dr. Long type in their vote via chat. All right. Commissioner Rosado, any remarks before we begin?
Very briefly for the record, thank you, Chairman Mansell. It's great to be with all of you. I can't believe it is the end of another year. Believe it or not, last week marked my 3-year anniversary at TCJS, so it's been both a whirlwind and a great experience to work with all of you and the TCJS team to help our local partners build stronger communities. As I've shared at these meetings, TCJS continues to work hard throughout the state, doing what we do best, convening, facilitating, supporting efforts to ensure safety and justice for all. Since we met in September, we launched STRIVE because we like acronyms. So statewide targeted reductions in intimate partner violence initiative, and I know this is an issue close to your heart, Chairman. So I'm really happy we got more money to do that. This is modeled after the GIVE initiative. We have $3 million to district attorneys, sheriffs, police departments, probation departments, and community-based providers that serve survivors of domestic violence in 20 counties, as well as $5 million to the district attorneys in New York City to help them reduce domestic violence. We awarded more than $63 million to strengthen safety and security measures at 336 community-based organizations that are at risk of hate crimes or attacks because of their ideology or beliefs or mission. This record level of funding was made available through our Securing Communities Against Hate Crimes program. So people from our finance team and our contracting team, if they're cranky, that's why. To get all that money out the door. And we announced new investments in Rochester and Syracuse to help law enforcement and community responses to crime and better support youth and families. As we continue to see sustained progress, we have, crime rates at pretty much pre-pandemic levels in the fight against gun violence and violent crime throughout New York. We have cut shootings in half since their 2021 peak, and they're back to historic lows. I'm excited for all of us next year to be able to build more on the preventive and innovative solutions to help our neighborhoods heal and thrive. So thank you for all you do, and I wish you all a happy holiday.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the MPTC 268th meeting agenda. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Agenda approved. Looking for any edits, comments, or corrections of the 267th meeting minutes. If there are none, I would entertain a motion to adopt the 267th meeting minutes. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meetings approved. Adoption of the 2025 meeting dates. We are looking at March 5th, June 4th, September 10th, and December 3rd. Do I have I would entertain a motion to adopt the proposed 2025 meeting dates. So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. We'll now move on to our action items on the agenda and turn it over to Dr. Gasparini.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the process for this project started with the recognition of calls for increasing communication skill levels of police recruits from the public and hiring agencies alike. We started the project by conducting a national scan of curricula available from out-of-state hosts, law enforcement training entities with special recognition of IADLE, and contemporary publications pertaining to communication skills for law enforcement. To update our curriculum, greater emphasis was placed on interacting with persons in crisis, including those in medical, mental health, and trauma-related crises. Emphasis was also placed on emotional intelligence by engaging recruits in self-reflection of their awareness and abilities in this realm. After completing an IADLE's design self-assessment on the subject, recruits are instructed in each facet of emotional intelligence, and those are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Recruits are given a mnemonic device to use when de-escalating or negotiating with a person in crisis. The e-leap model involves engaging, listening, empathizing, agreeing, and partnering with the person to achieve a positive outcome in a crisis situation. Some elements of the previous MPTC curriculum are retained and updated in this effort, including recognizing and responding to nonverbal communication, for example, proxemics, paralanguage, and body language. Active listening methods, barriers to effective communication, and de-escalation techniques were elements from the former curriculum that also retained. Another central goal of this rebuild was to foster recruit interaction. So during the pilot, we had the opportunity to see how effective the infusion of numerous group discussions and class activities were. In an end-of-course survey, nearly every recruit mentioned that the high level of interaction and ability to discuss and practice their skills with peers were the highlights of the experience. As part of our overall effort to incorporate adult learning principles across the curricula, aspects of the professional communications curriculum are integrated into coursework contained in the basic course for peace officers, campus public safety officer course, and the specialized investigator course. And just a highlight overview of curriculum topics. Just direct your attention to the screen for a moment. And finally, I'm happy to report that we had a very successful pilot at the Ulster County Law Enforcement Training Group. We had very passionate and dedicated individuals teaching it, and I observed in the back of the room Peter Burnett and Dan Carlson. That were not only were they our pilot instructors, but they were also on our review committee. So it was wonderful. We got really high remarks from the recruits. And I feel very confident in the curriculum, and I think it's going to do a world of good for many of our agenda items that we're looking at this year. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, with the program, to be an instructor for this, because it does require people to be able to get people out of their seats, interacting and things of that nature. Is there any requirement for that, or do you just need the instructor development certificate?
Yeah, at this time it's just the IDC.
If I could, sir, one of the things you'll notice about the new lesson plan formats that we can provide, including for this course, is that they're much more supportive in terms of guiding instruction and providing instructors some guidance in facilitating the conversations that we're talking about. So, some of that has been addressed within the lesson plan as opposed to what we used to provide. It's an outline with not a whole lot of guidance. Really, the step-by-step nature of the curriculum here provides the instructors, the guidance in achieving some of the things that we'd like to achieve.
And is there any formal assessment that goes on with the course? I know it's 8 hours, and maybe it can be like 4 hours, maybe one day, or I don't know. Is it paid and done, or is it spread out over the course of the curriculum? And if anybody, how's it assessed?
Yeah, so we had, we're integrating it in other sections of the basic course for police officers as well. And other than that,
we haven't typically provided written assessments in the basic course for police officers. As we move forward, hopefully with the job task analysis, we'll be able to redevelop the curriculum around that job task analysis, and then provide. Our goal is to provide assessments with this, but as of right now, the assessments are handled.
Thank you. As we were talking before, emotional intelligence has been around for some time, but it's still used widely in the corporate world, training. And I remember, this is where I get foggy. I remember that there was a program with DCJS, directed towards supervisors and chiefs and other administrators on emotional intelligence. Because Coleman writes the book, and he starts a little company, and then there was a book called Emotional Intelligence for Law Enforcement. But this was back in 1990. But I remember. Organizational remember.
Any other questions? right. So we'll go to the first motion. So I think for motion to approve, let's see, I want to make sure I'm in the right podcast. Approve, Professional Communication Skills for Law Enforcement, Part 4, Section 5, as the minimum standard of instruction in the basic course for police officers or equivalent, basic course for peace officers, campus public safety officer course, and specialized investigator police course, and require all instructors teaching this section to be at minimum general topics instructor. Promotion. Do I have a second to that? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Right. Motion 2. Looking for a motion for motion 2 reads as all employers and academies conducting basic course for police officers or equivalent, basic course for peace officers, campus public safety officer course, and specialized investigator police course beginning on or after September 1st, 2025 must utilize the newly approved curriculum. Would like to make that motion? We have a second. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Chairman,
Yes,
can you just confirm with Dr. Long, she's gonna apply for
I'm sorry.
response.
Looking for Dr. Long, looking for a response, both maybe a thumbs up and then in the chat.
Okay, we can see her.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry about that, I apologize. Right. Next item. Going on to the VTC Basic School Resource Officer Curriculum Update. Look to Jonathan Becker to present on action item number 4.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to present on some changes that need to be made to the VTC Basic School Resource Officers curriculum. The current curriculum was approved by this council in September of 2021, and some information on that. Since then, we've certified 576 law enforcement officers across the state through different avenues of providing that training. And we need to make some changes to Section 7. Section 7 is currently titled School Safety Plans and SHELL. SHELL stands for Shelter in Place, Hold in Place, Evacuate, Lockout, and Lockdown. This curriculum addresses the SAVE legislation, school safety planning, and responding to emergency events. And the State Education Department has recently adopted a policy and procedural, some policy and procedural changes that specifically relate to Section 7 of the Basic SRO curriculum. They recently adopted the I Love You Guys Foundation Standard Response Protocol to replace SHELL in all of New York schools. And schools are required to be in compliance under SED Commissioner's Regulation 155.17 by July 1st, 2025. And now the Standard Response Protocol introduces the following terms, some of which are familiar and some are different. Hold, secure lockout, lockdown, evacuate, and shelter. State Department of Education adopted this protocol to standardize emergency procedures and align with more than 50,000 schools, districts, departments, organizations, and communities around the world that have already implemented it. Another reason that they chose to make this change is the studies have indicated using the words lockout and lockdown, which are very similar, separate standalone words within the school safety standard response plan, are often confused during the emergency situation when the announcements are made, which leads to unnecessary stress and trauma in an already stressful situation. And along with these terms, they've adopted, along with these action-based terms, they've adopted an image for each one that correlates with the requested action. And this assists with the training and creates a universal language for crisis response. Now, if you look in your folder, I have provided a copy of the poster and I love you guys providing all of the schools. It comes in multiple languages here. You'll see a copy of it in English and in Spanish. Shows you each one of those images that you see on the screen. For those of you that are virtual, you can see them on the screen if you don't have the document. And that's about it. That's where we are with the specific change in section 7.
Anyone have any questions for Jonathan? With no questions, I would entertain a motion to rename section 7, the MPTC Basic School Resource Officer course, to School Safety Plans and Standard Response Protocol, and adopt the revised instructional objective to the MPTC Basic School Resource Officer course. All future deliveries of the course must utilize the new section title and learning objectives. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Thank you, Jonathan. Next item, EJ. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I put it right there too. I wrote it down. Dr. Long, looking for thumbs up and comment in the chat. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, we'll move on to EJ Weeks to present on the pistol instructor.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the council. We're here to present you with the pistol instructor course curriculum for your consideration and to give some brief background into the totality of the firearms program development. Back in December of 2022, the council endorsed a new firearms program for the BCPO beginning after September 1st of this year. In September of this year, the council endorsed the firearms instructor workshop to provide updates to current firearms instructors teaching the BCPO and provide the curriculum to facilitate the ability for these instructors to conduct their own workshops. The pistol instructor course curriculum is a culmination of several years of work developing the firearms program and provides new firearms instructors the updates necessary to teach firearms at the basic course for police officers, as well as creating firearms instructors. If we start going over the slide, the first one's going to be an overall review of the course. It's a 10-day program for instructor candidates with a focus on the duty issue pistol. Pilots were conducted in 3 locations, including Westchester, Onondaga, as well as Albany counties. It features new knowledge and skill-based lesson formats already in use in the firearms instructor workshop. And if you'll recall, Mike went over that at the last meeting. It takes a data-driven approach to training, focuses on improving real-world performance and decision-making, and provides instructor candidates with modern shooting techniques and updated instructional adult learning. The topics from the workshop that we previously discussed are all included in the pistol instructor course, as well as obviously for the new instructors, additional topics. The topics seen on this slide are not all inclusive. It would be slide after slide after slide of topics, but I did want to give a brief overview and kind of batch some of those together. The first is drills with emphasis on grip and vision. We now utilize shooter coach model on the workshop and the BCPO. Qualification standards are in line with the instructor workshop. Updated weapons handling and manipulation techniques. Data-driven focus on vehicle application in low-light situations. Focus on adult learning, coaching, and drill design. Range management, considerations, and safety. Ballistics and nomenclature, as well as culminating towards the end of the course with properly conducting LTA, also known as non-lethal training. This slide is a carryover from the September MPTC meeting involving our workshop numbers, in which I've updated a couple of those numbers. First, DCJS offerings. With the MPTC approval of the pistol instructor course, and in addition to the workshop, there's currently 360 instructors that have successfully completed training. The New York State Police have conducted in-house workshops with 86 members successfully completing that as well. We work very closely with the New York State Police. I've actually gained some friends and consider them a very close partner. With that, they have updated their firearms instructor course and currently have 46 graduates. I was fortunate enough, I was able to attend one of those 2 firearms instructor courses to completion, and I also attended numerous workshops. And I can attest that the learning objectives and methodology teaching coincide with our efforts here at DCJS.
Any questions for EJ?
I am.
Yes, go ahead.
This was quite an undertaking.
It's actually the largest project I've professionally been involved in undertaking.
Well, congratulations.
To be honest with you, I'm extremely humble for the opportunity, and people like Mike to put their trust in having me involved in this so early in CJS is, like I said, very humbling.
So to be a candidate to take the course, and I'm advised that it's in legislative someplace, but not everybody is going to be, welcome to take this course. You got to have experience and probably ideas. Is there anything else that you need?
They're going to need IDC, and they'll have to carry a gun in the course of their duties for 3 years as a police.
2 years, okay.
Yep.
All right. And if I was a chief and I wanted to send a member to the course, what, I know you have to take a qualifying course.
Yes.
That was demonstrated in the videos, which are excellent.
Yep.
Would I have the ability to get those videos, tell the person this is what you got to do before you get down there, or?
Yes, we have actually linked that in the course announcements. That way it's a new qualification, so they have, we're doing our due diligence to ensure there's no surprises when they ship. They have the ability to work on it on their own, have their agency work with it, so you can answer any questions or any issues, and like you had mentioned, instructional video as well.
And I understand that in most police courses, there's the 10% rule of attendance. If you miss 10, then I would argue that you can't miss anything here. I mean, I'll just say it, and I'll leave that, leave it hanging, because everything is terribly important. And to miss one day is, to me, kind of a problem, especially with the instructor. But going forward, how do you deal with the problem shooter? And the problem shooter is the person who can't hit the targets, or they're going all over the place, or?
Number one, we utilize the shooter coach model.
Okay.
So rather than having, say, 20 people up on the line shooting, now you have 10, and you have a dedicated student who is their coach. And they basically start off in the beginning as just strictly safety. You have a one-on-one, someone watching. As this course develops, we have to give them the ability to understand, have the knowledge, and then transfer that to the students. So throughout the course, going from just being safety, those coaches or instructor candidates can start to begin to do a little bit of coaching, right? We can direct their attentional focus. Hey, on this drill, it's safety, but I need you to focus on one specific thing, and kind of groom them for that. A lot of this is also self-exploratory learning. So rather than, a firearms instructor tells you to do one thing, somebody else might tell you to do another. We drive their attentional focus to one specific thing on the drill, and through an exploratory learning process. In essence, try to get them to hypothesize what the issue was, and then Socratically talk to their shooter coach. And in addition, you have a layer of instructors behind them to give that additional guidance.
And based on the beta tests that have been done with the course, what has been the biggest problem, do you think, with dealing with the problem shooter?
I think we've done a good job in terms of having, we went from the BCPO qualification for the first pilot for a shoot-in, and then we sat down as a group and talked and adjusted the current qualification to the 35 seconds. So I think typically some of those problem shooters, when they've been doing the work prior to, we don't necessarily see that. But I think consistently with the troubleshooters, it's following proper coaching. It's demonstrations, making sure the instructors are demoing things, and we continue to hit the same drills over and over with just different variations.
Final question. This is a massive undertaking, so and I know you have a lot of advisory panel.
Correct.
To help put this together. Is the advisory panel going to be intact or stay in session, so to speak? Because I know you have scenarios. I know you have a lot of things, and over time, when you go into something like this, things change, or somebody says, we got to really change this, that, or the other thing. Would that be part of the organizational model here?
That's a great question. My assumption is obviously we continue on with the panel. I think Mike can speak with his experience better to it. That panel will stay consistent.
Lots of these members of the panel we're using as contract instructors to continue to deliver the course. Although agencies can run down a workshop, hopefully after today we'll be able to run this pistol instructor course. We're going to continue to support the change, just like we did with defensive tactics, for the very foreseeable future. So at least 6 of those panel members are involved as contract instructors. We anticipate bringing more of those folks into the fold. And so, although the learning objectives won't change, unless you know we have to come back to the council to adjust those, we will make modifications to the content as necessary, advised by the subject matter experts.
Thank you.
And I think that might be an excellent point to just kind of piggyback off of the last point on that slide, where it says DCGS will continue to provide these courses and provide any guidance to outside agency training. Like discussed, it was a huge project, and upon approval, that doesn't mean the project is done and over with and just goes back on the shelf. I see the approval more or less as the beginning, in which we still continue to forge relationships statewide, provide guidance and assistance, and to get feedback, because things do change, and you know, to do our due diligence and constantly updating and providing, you know, the best we can for us.
None of our staff's allowed to leave now, though. That's they're not allowed to go.
And Bruce, I would just say, you know, and I know John and Mike and talking about, there's been so much work done in basic course, but continually keeping it, as you can see, our staff is really committed to continually introducing new concepts and, you know, strengthening it as it goes. So that's been something that's been talked about throughout the entire basic course, and I'm sure will be part of this. So.
And promise without saying when possible, give us updates on housing zoning, numbers, that sort of thing.
And we'll be back with respect to that. You know, I believe it was 2 council meetings ago. The council endorsed, you know, the use of range safety officers in certain training zones. With the fire instructor workshop approval of last meeting and this, we anticipate we'll be able to kind of wind that down. We'll come back to the council with that.
Thank you.
Dr. McBride, I just asked you a question about the 10%. The regulations, part of 6022, subdivision 6, allows discretion to the school director to excuse up to 10% of
discretion.
That's discretionary.
Discretion.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do our diligence to stress the importance of it.
Okay. You know, I'm just saying, you can't miss anything here. Right? Miss it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right, we have 3 motions for this. Motion 1, approve the MPTC pistol instructor course for issuing MPTC certificates to all students who successfully complete the course, and issue MPTC certificates to all students that have previously successfully completed the pistol instructor course pilots. Looking for a motion? Do you have a motion? Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Motion number 2, require all instructors of the pistol instructor. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Long. Thumbs up. All right. Okay. Motion 2, require all instructors of the pistol instructor course to have successfully completed the MPTC firearms instructor course and MPTC firearms instructor workshop, or have completed the MPTC pistol instructor course. Require all new instructors in the use of a pistol to complete the new pistol instructor course as the minimum standard of instruction for courses approved on or after January 1st, 2025. Do I have a motion for that? So moved. Second? All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? Dr. Long? Thank you. All right, you're up. Motion 3, require all instructors serving in the role of an exercise control officer or training coordinator as defined in the reality-based training instructor course during the non-lethal training ammunition NLTA drills, or teaching the safely conducting NLTA drills section of the pistol instructor course to be a certified MPTC reality-based training instructor. Looking for someone for that motion? We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? And we have thumbs up.
So it's already a curveball. We have one more motion we've added on. There was a late addition.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask either Mike or EJ to just briefly explain that motion, what we're requesting.
We previously had the fire instructor workshop approved at the training council. The instructor requirements for that were the MPTC fire instructor course, and then having also completed the workshop. With the title of this course being pistol instructor, rather than going, it just administratively, it makes things easier for us moving forward. We want to just move back around and allow the folks to complete this new pistol instructor course, which is essentially equivalent to fire instructor plus the workshop, to be able to also teach the workshop, because the workshop's going to play a big role in achieving the saturation necessary for these instructors statewide. Okay. So that's what this motion is.
So we have on our fourth motion to permit all current and new MPTC pistol instructors to instruct the MPTC firearms instructor workshop. Have a motion? So moved. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thumbs up. Any opposed? So carried. Thank you very much, EJ. Nice job. Awesome. Thank you. All right. We now go to initial pistol course for peace officers. Mike?
Good morning, members of the council. Kind of in line with that last emergency motion there for the pistol instructor course. This is essentially an administrative ask. Due to the size of the project for our office and for law enforcement statewide, and changing the basic police officer instruction for firearms, and then the accompanying instructor component for that, peace officers there's a delayed implementation, and the scope of that project is very large. In fact, there's more armed peace officers in New York State than there are police. And so, given that necessity, there is still a role for what the curriculum that previously served as section 4M of the basic course for police officers, prior to courses that began September 1st of 2024, is still the current initial weapons course for handguns for armed peace officers, and will continue to serve in that role for probably about 2 more years. And so, because that's kind of a curriculum without a home now, we want to change the name from 4M initial firearms, because that course is now a different curriculum, and just designate this as the initial pistol course for police officers. And so, really, we're asking just for a name change, and that's really the crux of this. We do, as I mentioned, September 1 of 26 is our goal for peace officer implementation. We'd like that to be a kind of a moving target. We'll come back to the council for that. But in the interim, this course still does serve an important role in initial weapons training for police officers.
Any comments or questions for Mike?
Good.
All right. Motion 1 to approve the amendments to the initial pistol course for peace officers to reflect the new firearm safety rules and recommendations previously adopted by the MPTC at the December 2022 meeting for the basic course for police officers, firearms. Do I have a motion? Second? Second. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have a thumbs up. All right. So carried. Motion 2, require peace employers to utilize the initial pistol course for peace officers as the minimum standard of training when equipping their officers with a pistol for courses that begin on or after January 1st, 2025. All instructors of the initial pistol course must have successfully completed the MPTC firearms instructor or MPTC pistol instructor course. Looking for a motion? Moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have thumbs up. Any opposed? So carried. And motion 3, rename section 4-M of the BCPO firearms training to initial pistol course. Do we have a motion? So moved. We have a second? Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. We have thumbs up. Any opposed? So carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Molly, to present on the proposed update to the purple auto policy.
Thanks. Good morning, Chairman and members of the council. This morning, I bring before you amendments to the Extreme Risk Protection Order Model Policy. This policy was originally adopted in December of 2022 to provide guidance to law enforcement in using this tool to prevent those at risk of harming themselves or others access to firearms. Recent updates to civil practice laws and rules that expanded the definition of petitioner to now include a law enforcement agency as defined in criminal procedure law has necessitated a few updates to this policy. A draft version of this is included in your packet if you want to just follow along. The first update is in section 3 on page 2, the definition of petition. The definition of petitioner is updated to a law enforcement agency that employs a police officer or a police officer as defined in CPL 1.20. The second update is in section 4 on page 7 regarding the filing process. The filing process has been updated to now include listing a law enforcement agency as a petitioner, and it's stated as the following in the draft policy. The petitioner listed on the application must either be the name of a police officer or name of a law enforcement agency that employs a police officer. It cannot be the name of any other institution. And the last edit is in section 5, letter B on page 10, and applies to serving a respondent. In your packet, the proposed language is when a law enforcement agency is listed as the petitioner, a law enforcement officer from the same agency can serve the ERBO, which is added to the existing language that was already provided, stating that if the original officer is listed as the petitioner, they can't serve it. They can be present when it's served by another officer. But we got additional feedback from the Attorney General's office after this packet went out, so I do propose an additional update to read when a law enforcement agency is listed as the petitioner, a law enforcement officer from the same agency, including the law enforcement officer who completed the turbo paperwork, can serve the ERBO. They were pretty clear that they wanted it to be more explicit in the policy, stating that that person, that officer can serve the order. So we did consult with members of the state police, the ERBO administrator, and the Attorney General's office on these updates, and they were all in agreement of those. So if this is adopted, we will obviously update the policy, update our website where it's listed, and then include it in our memo that goes out to all agencies. Any questions?
Any questions from them?
So these changes were brought up by problems of having individual officers targeted and also.
It's my understanding that's why the law was updated. Yes.
I believe there was also a concern because it was under the officer's name when they would do like a credit check for a mortgage or something. They would show up with all these court cases, and that was affecting specific officers' credit scores.
Right.
And the ability to grab mortgages.
It's not really a question, but it's related. Our agency is working now with LTI, that's in one of the national sites that's looking at ERCO applications with survivors of domestic violence. So even though, as you know, early on, we don't see many survivors of domestic violence because it's fairly easy and hard. They still want to look at it to see, how that compares to other states. So it'll be interesting to see one of those issues. I believe there's 6 sites. And in some states, they use ERCOs really counted it or fairly often to get protection.
We actually recommend in the policy and others that they do both, or both and an OP. And part of the reason is because of different timings of the two of them, so that's kind of how we've been moving in the direction of training process. So even if the victim obviously gets a family court OP, but the officer or others are aware that we're encouraging them to continue on with an IRPO because there's different times for each of them, different standards and things like that. So we are encouraging both.
I'm curious, is that happening a lot outside of the municipal? We don't really, I'm not really seeing it.
I mean, we put it in the policy, we've been instructing on it, we'll have pieces that the new DV curriculum that sort of addresses that. I can't tell you right now whether or not all the state is being uniform, but we're letting people know that you can do both, and that we would encourage both.
Any other questions? Comments? All right, being none, I would accept the motion to adopt the updates made to the MPTC Extreme Risk Protection Order Model Policy as presented. We have a motion, we have a second? Second. We have a second, all in favor, say aye. Any thumbs up, any opposed? So carried. Thank you, Molly. We now move on to the informational items on the agenda. Sarah Dean, your presentation on the administrative site visit program.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the council. I will be presenting an overview of the administrative site visit program. The Office of Public Safety is responsible for the approval and certification of police training courses in accordance with executive law, as well as established regulations set forth within the New York compilations of codes, rules, and regulations. DCJS maintains administrative oversight over law enforcement training programs approved by the Commissioner pursuant to Executive Law 840, which establishes DCJS as a staff arm of the MPTC. So all of this is really to say that the authority to conduct these compliance visits of approved MPTC training is something that already exists. So we're formalizing the process and really taking a proactive approach to these visits. So I think the main goal of the program is to strengthen the relationship between our office and DCJS and the training field while ensuring compliance. So we're looking to enhance communications and the networking between OPS and training providers, to observe for training occurring as scheduled, to monitor for compliance with minimum standards and the appropriateness of the content, to identify areas where technical assistance can be provided, to target content-specific evaluation in order to enhance the delivery of instruction and programs, to increase the accountability and fidelity to the programs, and to obtain feedback in order to ensure that lesson content is consistent with best practices. So in order to conduct these visits, we're drawing from a pool of qualified law enforcement trainers to serve as the monitoring consultants. The minimum requirements are at least 10 years of experience as either a New York State police officer or a correction officer. And ideally, candidates will have an array of training experience, including things such as holding various MPTC instructor certifications, academy instructor experience, and serving in the role as a course director. And I will plug here that we are actively seeking qualified. So the selection process is conducted through a formalized RFA, or request for application process. All applicants who meet the minimal qualifications and have submitted a completed application will be placed on a list of potential consultants and notified of this status. I just want to note that the presence on the list does not guarantee that an individual will ultimately be selected for an assignment. And during the scheduling process, OPS staff will select a consultant from the list. whose training and experience best suits that specific assignment. So the responsibilities of the field representative consultant are to review the approved curriculum content form, the MPTC training standards, and any other supplemental course documentation prior to the visit, to complete the online course director orientation training if they have not already done so, to review and adhere to the scope of the visit that's defined in an inspection details checklist that's provided by OPS staff prior to the visit, to perform the site visit at an MPTC approved training program, to observe that the training is occurring as prescribed by the MPTC. It's important to all of us that the communications and the interactions throughout these stages of the assessment are conducted in a non-adversarial manner, since this is not the intention of the program. They need to report safety or egregious protocol deficiencies to OPS staff as soon as possible, to draft and electronically submit the assessment report and any supplemental documentation regarding the findings to OPS staff within 2 weeks of the on-site assessment. And then any and all corrective action planning or investigative steps will be conducted by DCJS. However, the consultants are expected to be available in the unlikely event that any findings result in DCJS taking steps to either suspend or revoke an instructor certification pursuant to the regulations at an MPTC hearing. So it's important to note that the routine site assessments will be announced in advance, and OPS is doing, we'll do our best to work with the academy in scheduling that visit. The inspection may include meeting with the course director and or their designee and explaining the purpose and the expectation of the visit, conducting a walkthrough inspection of the academy facilities, including classrooms, training grounds, and administrative areas. Records maintenance is a big area of compliance and may include verifying that the training dates and the instructors being utilized corresponds with the approved curriculum content form that's on file. Observe that the instructors are ensuring compliance with MPTC training standards and using and maintaining the most current lesson plan. Verifying the presence of exams and quizzes, as well as student notebooks for courses that would require them. Conducting interviews with academy staff, instructors, or students to gather additional information about the training program, the approved curriculum content form, and general compliance with the regulations. And a debrief of the overall findings with the course director may be conducted on site if OPS staff is present. The debrief could be used to convey acceptable and unacceptable findings and any necessary corrections. So after the assessment, the summary documents must be submitted by the consultant to OPS within 10 days of the completion of the site visit. And then based on the findings of the visit, the academy may be internally referred to different units within OPS for further action, such as the compliance unit, the course approval unit, or the training units. And over the last couple of months, we have conducted 2 pilots of Syracuse and Westchester. The program was really received well by all parties. I'd like to thank both Peter Burnett and Scott Butler for participating in the consultant role for this. It was really helpful to have their experience and feedback as we work to develop this process. We are looking to get the word out and ultimately expand our consultant pool. So if there's anyone that you can think of that would be good in this role, please pass along our contact information or their name to us. There's an email address on the screen which is monitored for this purpose in this program. I'd like to thank Mike Puckett too, who's worked really closely
in the different stages of this. And I think, you know, the compliance and the training, you know, pairing those together is gonna be really crucial in the success of this program.
Well, Sarah's the one who actually went out, visited these sites. So that, she did all the work. Very good partnership.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to address.
I'd like to just say thank you to, as Sarah did take the lead, it was a collaborative effort between both of the units that started probably about a year ago. And so I share that because there's a lot behind this that was developed to make sure that, you know, it could be used as a tool to assist academies and support academies. So it was a long time coming, but it was a long time, a lot of work went into behind this. You're seeing sort of the tip of the iceberg, but a lot of work went into sort of structuring this so that it could be most useful for us and for the field to help support each other in delivering.
Any comments or questions?
Well, I do remember that there was an informal group of visitors from at the time DCJS, Municipal Police Training Council, et cetera, who would stop in, you know, at academies, but it was more of an informal, you know, hi, what's going on, you know, sort of thing. So it was, you know, very, very valuable. But I gotta say, from an academy director spot, you know, first thing here, oh my God. So, and so the to reduce the here, oh my God, type of thing, I think it's important, obviously, to get this out into that this is to be a collaborative, you know, type of thing, and not I know that my sister-in-law had to go through from a banking perspective when the auditor showed up and said, okay, everybody out, you know, this type of thing. But so audit versus collaborative review, I think that, and that's why I would say, once you get the program going, because there's so much involved in terms of style and process, I wouldn't do it online. I would do it face to face with accreditation. And the accreditors, they may, you may not need 3 days like that, but I think you got, this is going to be carefully done.
Yeah, this is, it's gonna be online, and it's gonna be an in-person.
Okay,
These are all, yeah, no, these are all in-person assessments that are gonna go out. We feel it's the most useful with that.
But let me clarify, for the training, for the assessment, for the visitors, consultants.
Oh, no, the one training is the same training that everyone will have, that everyone has to take. It's the director's online training that everybody who's a director has to take. We just ensure that some of these consultants have taken it. Not sure if they have, but it's part of something we've had for a long time, well, a few years now. And it's basically reiterating and reporting out on what the regs are, and what the requirements are for delivering it, so that the actual person who's going out has that information. The training itself, there's a lot of hands-on, and they've developed, as I said, it's the tip of the iceberg, but they've developed a lot of materials to help support the person who's going out there, and that's just one piece of it.
And we have been, I mean, it's just the 2 pilots, but I think it's what I'd like to see going forward as well. We've reached out to the academies about a month ahead of time.
Yes.
And, you know, with different dates, so we really have worked with them, to kind of set everything up. So it's certainly not our intention to just show up, you know.
Is there a format going to be used for the report? So let's say that you go to an academy, everything is fine. But is there a report that's going to be made saying on such and such a date, such and such a time, I visited, you know, Rochester Academy, and
That the consultant completes, right? Yes.
and this was going on, and or you just get a report and say everything's fine.
There's a standardized form that the consultant has to complete. And then depending on the findings, you know, if they do find issues, you know, then they would, you know, provide photographs, or depending on what it was, additional information. But no matter what, there's a standardized report that is.
Yeah, that part of what I was saying about all the work that went into leading to this, part of that, they created a whole infrastructure so that this could be rolled out effectively, including a standardized report that staff worked together to develop. So that's part of a lot of the background to make sure it can be implemented with fidelity.
And a lot of the pilot, I think, also was sort of working through some of these documents, giving them to the consultant ahead of time so they could review them. And, if it provided enough information, if they had questions, as well as, the post-assessment documentation. And, with the exception of a few minor tweaks, everything seemed pretty clear.
The part-time academies and the pre-service academies, are they part of this too?
They can be, yes, as well as, any in-service training.
And it's just for basic school, or could it be for a supervisor school, or?
It could be any course that's approved by the MPTC.
With respect to the administrative form as well, we do collaborate with Office of Legal Services too, in the rare event that never have to be a potential suspension or revocation, or all documentation that is there for the consultant to indicate on the form.
The only question I have is, can you go back to the qualifications for your consultants, please? I just want to make sure I read that correctly. So my question is a police officer with 10 years of correction officer. And my question to you is, do you think that that's enough? And so my concern is people have experience, as I'm sure everybody up here has understood it, has done audits before, either academies or something like that. People who've had backgrounds in academies, SEC ideal candidates have experience as general instructors and things like that. But there's also the other administrative side where you actually have to do an administrative investigation into things. And I don't see that up there. And I think that's something that should be important. People have had experience actually going through writing these kinds of reports rather than just attending an online training one time and then going into an academy and now evaluating these folks having either not been in those shoes before or not having conducted an audit before. It's something I would strongly encourage maybe looking into and having that experience rolling in there versus trying to reinvent the wheel as they roll along. You can have the best forms, the best format for a report, but if they don't know how to execute that or they've never done that before, that can be a challenge for you to take a look at. Sometimes a new set of eyes is also not a bad thing, but someone especially leading the audit, if you will, and I'm calling an audit, having spent some time in internal affairs, also known as professional standards. Now, that's something that that's pretty important is to know not only, hey, these are things that we want to look for, but you want to know what to look for because you've had a look behind the curtain a little bit. And that will also help you in them as well. Like you mentioned before, sir, having that collaborative communication going in as a non-punitive kind of investigation is the way, how can we collaborate to make this better? But again, if you don't have someone who's walking in the door who's leading this audit team to come in there to take a look at these operations, if they don't have that experience, it may just be an exercise just to kind of check the box. Okay, you have this, and you really don't know. Hey, I know we've had some problems in certain areas before. Are you guys experiencing the same thing? If they don't have that background, you're kind of shortchanging the whole process. That's just mine.
Thanks for that input. Definitely helpful. I think I just want to make sure, I think there's some misunderstanding about the online, but I just want to make sure on that piece. That's something that was over the rest of the but there is a big emphasis, I think Sarah would be saying that, we're going to be choosing who goes out and the requirement that they familiarize themselves with the curriculum. So a lot of times we're looking for people, let's say we talked about the firearm, somebody who is a firearms instructor to go out and do that review and do that assessment rather than somebody who's not, because we don't want it to be that. We want it to be more substantive. I appreciate the thoughts and insight. We can take that back as to how we can, continually assist in maybe the report writing for it. But we're requiring them to look at things before they go out there, and we're requiring them to be somebody who has that familiarity with that particular course, so that it is really useful to the academies and then useful to us for the future.
Your point's well taken, sir. I think we're on the same page.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you just don't want any practitioner just because they're a great partner does not mean that they're a great evaluator.
Yeah, the two folks that we've utilized so far, one is a retired commander from the Rochester Police Department, and he's academy director for more than 10 years. The other one was an executive officer, lieutenant of a police department with 30 years experience, and we specifically selected with a lot of training experience too. we specifically selected those folks based on that. So even though someone would meet the minimum standard qualifications here, they probably wouldn't be selected unless they possess the experience for all the reasons that you.
Well, that's why when I saw that,
The RFA widens the net of who can apply, but we still have the discretion to select who's most appropriate based on their qualifications that they provide.
like I said, being the new guy, I just,
Right,
no,
no, no,
nothing for that stuff. I'm sure you guys have your stuff in order. I was just appreciating.
No, thank you very much for these.
But taking that one step further, I'm putting that's for agents, I would emphasize senior level. Law enforcement experience, and that can sometimes catch more people.
So we want to make sure we were able to catch folks that are maybe who don't possess that, but they're for a unique, maybe a unique instructor school that they're going to. We want to be able to utilize someone with maybe some specialized experience. We can take a look at the RFA.
Right. And some of this too is to really provide technical assistance, get boots out on the ground, be able to identify who's an instructor or consultant who's very familiar with that program to say, look, you're doing it this way, but here's some potential safety concerns that based on my experience running it, here's some considerations. Again, it's not ultimately to ding people, but to one of the provide that technical assistance. So
I think, Dr. Brady, your point earlier, from a broad brush, it exactly is that. It's essentially what we do with accreditation and applying it to the police academy. And part of that is having been an academy director when DCJS used to come out and inspect in Blumberg. I remember specifically looking at a lot of things and interviewing
I was from Oneida County, so I do.
Yeah. So we're taking that same kind of approach, but by using the consultants, we're grabbing credible messengers that were, a guy like Commander Burnett that ran a police academy. If we're going to look at a basic course, he knows what the filing of the paperwork, he knows what the curriculum needs to look like. He's worked with us as an SME on curriculum development. We're handpicking folks like that so that not only are we getting that look at is training being done with fidelity across the state, also are we meeting all the minimum standards? We have that, more of an audit look to things, but equally as important is that having that person there, we're hoping to get more feedback so we can provide better technical assistance. We'll find gaps that perhaps there's things that academies might need more resources or might need more work with that they may not come comfortable coming to DCJS, OPS, or to the council to say, I'm struggling in this particular area. By having these folks out there, we'll get better real feedback on what we can do to serve them better.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you, sir. Nice job. Move on to new business. Is there any new business the council members would like to bring up for discussion? There being none, our next meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. on March 5th. And being no further business, I would entertain a motion to close our meeting today. So, in a second. All in favor, say aye. Thumbs up. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great holiday season, everyone. See you next year. Thank you.